Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today I just want to talk a bit about my favorite blitz weapons. Some of these are quite dubious and I don't recommend you use them in like serious games, but for the occasional blitz game or even if it's your main weapon in blitz games online, I think it could like work out really well because a lot of people don't know how to deal with these, and these are kind of like sidelines that people don't often study. And so yeah, for these casual games, blitz tournaments in your club, then I do recommend trying these out. Yeah, so I'm not going to give the entire analysis of the gambits, but I'm just going to show you the main line, and yeah, with the reference videos that I will link below, you can just watch that to get more of an understanding of the opening. So the first gambit occurs in e4 e5. Actually, I think all of the gambits I'm going to show occur in e4 e5. And after bishop c4, the bishop's opening, knight f6 is the most common move, after which white can play the move d4. And the gambit occurs after e takes d4. First off, d4 is known as the Ponziani gambit, but it can soon transpose or go into the more specific Urusov Gambit after e takes d4. We play knight f3, and now knight takes e4. Now at this moment, we will take on d4 with the queen, and there are a bunch of moves that are possible, but knight f6 is the best by far. After which, white will play the move knight c3. It's very important, and the idea is to go for this bishop g5 and long castle idea. So black has a couple of options in this position. They can either go for knight c6, they can either go for bishop e7 and just castle immediately, or they can play the move c6 and d5, fighting for the center that way. And I think c6 d5 is the most common way to treat this position. At least strong players will choose that. But let's look at a couple of variations. For example, after knight c6, the idea is also to go with this move queen h4. And if they go bishop e7, then we can play bishop g5. And let's say they play d5, we can play long castles. And this is the reason that people generally put their pawn on c6, because they don't want their d pawn to be vulnerable this way. But after bishop e6, there's also this move knight takes d5, which leads actually white to having a better position. After knight d5, bishop d5, c4, winning back the piece. h6, rook takes d5 with tempo on the queen. Bishop takes g5 with check. Knight g5, queen e7, and then the knight just retreats back. But this actually forces the exchange of queens or provokes it. After takes, white just ends up with a slightly better position because of the more active pieces. It's probably not much, and black can probably hold if played with correct play, but it's something. But this is not the main line. The main line occurs after something like bishop e7, bishop g5, and then they can castle here. After castle c6, white will play rook he1, and you can see that white has like great development. Actually, all of their pieces are already out, and the only question is how to improve further. Now, the Urusov Gambit is very aggressive, and one of the ideas involves like bringing the queen to h4, as you saw before, as well as bringing the bishop to d3, threatening some bishop f6, and then the h7 pawn might be hanging at the very end. So yeah, the line continues like d5, bishop d3, and here a move would be a mistake, but looks logical, is bishop e6, because after queen h4, let's say they go knight b7, bishop takes h7 just wins here, because knight h7, bishop e7 with a fork. So instead of that, rook e8 is best, but still after bishop f6 takes on h7, this does not look good for black. The line continues here that after king f8, bishop f5, because now if they take on f5, there's going to be a queen h8 checkmate. So knight d7, queen h8, king e7, queen h3, piling up pressure on this bishop. So knight c5 is virtually forced. After bishop e6, knight takes e6, knight e4, making use of the pin on the d file. You see that there are a lot of tactics occurring in the position. And after king f8, queen f5 is very strong. And next, white is just gonna damage the pawn structure and eventually get a slightly better endgame here. But most of the time, you play the Urusov Gambit not to go for a slightly better endgame and liquidate into that kind of position, but go for the attack, because oftentimes people will just make a lot of tactical errors, especially on the h7 square, or as you saw before, there may be also some rook takes e7 sacrifices in the air. So yeah, that's basically the Urusov Gambit, and I will link a video by Jonathan Schranz, who basically like revived this in the online chess scene. And I've had a few nice wins, but I would say that I lose more games than I'm comfortable with if I play this Urusov Gambit. So, which is why I kind of like abandoned it. From time to time I played it, but I wouldn't use it as my main weapon, because my main blitz weapon at least, because there's so much uncovered, analysis that hasn't been discovered yet. So it's still fairly new, and a lot of things can be discovered. So yeah, the next one is the Nakhmanson Gambit. So it occurs again in e4, e5, knight f3, bishop. Okay, yeah, in this game, I mean, you can continue with bishop c4, entering the bishop's opening move order. The reason is that after knight f6 and d4, if they play e takes d4 and then we play knight f3, now it's possible again for black to go into the Urusov Gambit with knight takes d4 and queen takes d4. But if they play knight c6, then we need to know how to continue. And in this position, after castling, it's possible to play bishop c5 here, after which this will enter the max Lange attack. So we will just cover that first. E5 and then d5. You know, the best response, obviously the best. And here, e takes f6 is the line. After d takes c4, we will take on g7, rook g8, rook e1, and then black will have to cover with the bishop e6. And here, after bishop g5, actually a lot of people blunder with queen d5 here. For example, if you look at my database, I've played, hold on a second. I think I've played 3 games here, and yeah, they all blundered this queen takes d5 move. Yeah, some very, very strong players actually, like Jonathan Schranz here, as one of my victims, even. Because the reason is after knight c3, they cannot take on c3 because the queen is hanging and there's a pin on the e-file. And after queen f5, knight e4, this threatens knight f6 with a fork. So after rook takes g7, knight h4 just surprisingly traps the queen. And this is just like obviously completely winning for white. So that's one of the ideas, but bishop e7 here is the main move, and after bishop e7, queen takes e7, knight d4, rook d8, c3. Black can capture on g7 here, and let's say after queen f3, knight d4, cd4. B7 is hanging now, so it's not wise to take on d4. After c6, knight c3, rook takes c4, rook ad1. Trying to fight for the control over the d-file. Queen d8, g3, some space. Rook g6, queen e3, rook takes d1, takes, queen a5, queen d4, bishop g4, and then rook d2. The position is very wild, obviously. White is not claiming in any universe to be better, but, it's a very wild position and anything could happen here. Yeah, so that's essentially the max Lange attack. Basically, honestly, like if I'm playing the max Lange attack, I'm just hoping that my opponent here plays queen d5, after which I just hope to get this, this nice queen trap. But otherwise, it's equal, from a theoretical standpoint. But instead of bishop c5 here, instead of the solid bishop c5, knight takes e4 is possible. After which I like to play this move knight c3, also introduced by, at least introduced to me by Jonathan Schranz on his YouTube channel. This is known as the Nakhmanson Gambit, and it's very surprising the first time you see it. Because the other move is like rook e1. The other move is rook e1, but this has been known for a long time that after d5, bishop d5, queen d5, knight c3, queen a5, queen h5, queen d7, all of these moves are good. And for just one sample line here gives this position where it's completely equal, and black has no problems there. Which is why, if you're going to play some dubious gambits, then knight c3 is the way to go. Now, the computer does not like this at all. It will actually give black like a minus 1.5 advantage or around there. But the idea is after d takes e3, we have this bishop takes f7 move, which again is not good. This is not sound, but it's very fun. After king takes f7 and queen d5, most people will probably play king e8. I think king f6 is actually considered to be the best move, but it's very difficult to play. After rook e1, knight e7, queen d4, king f7, bishop g5. Then apparently after d5, black is doing great. But most people will probably play king e8, and this still maintains the advantage, but they need to be very precise. After rook e1, this is the idea. You want to bring another piece into the game. It's possible for them to play knight e7, and after rook e4, c6, we can include a queen h5 check. After g6, queen e5, the rook will have to step aside, and after queen d6, yeah, this line just continues for a long time. Rook g6, bishop f6, takes, rook e1, takes, and eventually we get this position where I think black should be better here, actually. Let me just turn on the engine. Yeah, okay, the computer says that black is slightly better. It's only marginally better, I guess, so no one will know this, which is kind of what you're hoping on. Also, I think important here is after bishop e7, rook takes e4, a very nice discovery found by Jonathan Schwartz is after h6. There's this incredible bishop h6 move. Just like, it's so beautiful. The point is that if rook takes h6, then there's going to be queen g8 checkmate. And if g takes h6, then after queen h4, queen h5, king f8, rook f4, bishop f6, queen g6 just attacks the piece one more time, and black is completely losing here. So that basically just shows the venom of the Nakhmanson Gambit. But one of the reasons that, maybe the main reason that I decided not to use this so often is this knight takes c3 move. And most good players will play knight takes c3 because it's just basically giving a free advantage for black. After bc3, they play d5, and then after bishop e5, they will simply just play bishop e7. D takes c3 is just really asking for it. For example, after knight d4, queen d6, note that if they play bishop d7, this is really bad. After knight c6, bc6, we can play rook e1. And if they play bishop e6, then the c6 pawn falls. And if they play bishop e7, then after bishop a3, they're going to lose a lot of material. So yeah, so d takes c3 is really greedy. Bishop e7 is better, but after knight e5, bishop d7, we're kind of forced to play this position after we take here, castle c3, a6, bishop d3, bishop f6, rook b1, rook a b8, and of course black is better. I mean, black is just up a pawn, and realistically white has no competition, but I've played this position a few times, even once against GM Melik on chess.com, and I've managed to win one of those games. I mean, it just, for some reason, like, I don't know why, or I don't know how I'm able to win, but sometimes it just happens. But yeah, objectively, it's like you're down a pawn for nothing, basically. So it's very fun if they decide to take on c3 with the pawn, but if they take on c3 with the knight, then suddenly things get, a little unclear, or actually just worse for white. So yeah, and the next gambit is surprisingly a pretty sound one, a bit of a change from the usual ones. It occurs in the Italian game after these set of moves, and against knight f6, I will share another gambit after this, involving d4 in this position. But against bishop c5, I tried to find a gambit specific to this bishop c5 variation, and it was, I mean, it's very clear that after c3, knight f6, if you don't want to play the slow Italian, then you have to go for d4. And after e takes d4, here e5 was Wesley So's recommendation in his 1e4 lifetime repertoire course, which I really like. But it goes into some serious theory, some modern theory. But after c takes d4 here, bishop b4, I like this move knight d2. This was chosen, I think, first in the game between Mamedyarov against Karyakin. And the idea is that this sacrifices the pawn on e4, and we can see the complications that occur after this. I was inspired to learn this after watching the game Caruana against Nakamura in the Rapid Chess Championships, and ever since that game I was like captivated on its strength. But since then I've done my own work, and I realized that with best play, obviously it just peters out to a draw, and there are lines that just avoid all of the complications, which is kind of why I try to avoid it. And I talk about this weapon actually in this video that I made a couple of months back, discussing the Caruana versus Nakamura game. The idea is after knight takes e4, d5, if they play knight d2, after bishop takes d2, bishop d2, queen d2, knight e7, h4, and this enters the game, as you can see here, Caruana versus Nakamura. And you can watch that video that I uploaded many months ago. And instead 97 is possible, but after castles, knight d2, bishop d2, bishop takes d2, d6, c takes d6 is best here, and after queen d2, queen d2 is possible, but knight takes d2 is what I've found to be very interesting. And after d5, there's actually bishop d5, very, very nice. Knight d5, knight c4, and if they retreat with the knight back, then after knight d6 and queen b3, there's some serious problems here. For example, queen e7, rook e1, with rook fe1 coming, black just turns out to be lost, surprisingly enough. So this knight takes d2 move is a novelty, I think, that is worth a try, and a lot of people won't be ready for it. The idea is after queen takes d2, black will generally just give back the pawn, and in this kind of position, yeah, I mean, white can't claim an advantage. So yeah, that's possible. And one thing that I like is that after d6, a couple of people have played bishop b4 against me, and this actually just loses on the spot. And if you want to pause your video to find the move, then feel free to do so. But yeah, the move here is just knight g5, and black turns out to be completely lost. We're not even taking back the piece because we have pressure on f7, just threatening even to trap the queen. And after castles, queen h5 just wins. I've had like 2 games, I think, to my memory that continued h6, knight f7, rook f7 takes, like king h8 takes, and they have to take with the bishop now because there's queen g8 mate threat. After takes, rook e1, my opponent's all just resigned because e7 is falling. Otherwise, if the bishop moved, then rook e8 is coming. So yeah, that's one of the traps also. Like bishop e4 looks like it just saves the piece, because if we take here, then obviously black is doing great. Black is just winning actually, just up 2 pawns. So yeah, that's one of the additional traps that I want to show in this variation. Going back here. Okay, so the next gambit I want to talk about is what Miodrag Perunovic, international master from Serbia, who is also known as the Butcher online, he calls this the Morphy-Anderrsen, or the Morphy-Anderrsen variation of the Scotch Gambit. It occurs after e45, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, d4, and after e takes d4. So before that, like nowadays, knight g5, I really like this line for white, and obviously everything that comes with the Polario defense after knight e5. I just find that this is a good practical weapon, and I do recommend you check it out, because it's severely underestimated. People just think that what is knight g5? Like, this is such an amateur move, but it's a very serious weapon. Anyways, d4 is the start of the gambit, and after e takes d4, knight g5. Now, I have to say that this is not a good variation, but it's very tricky, and a lot of people won't know like the lines to getting the advantage for black. And the reason that I stopped playing it is after I played it over the board against Aman in the Melbourne Chess Club. For all of you Melbourne people, you will know that name. And yeah, he played d5 here, which is the second most common move. And after e takes d5, queen e7 is really annoying. After king f1, which is forced, knight e5, queen d4 takes, and then black can just try to trade off the queens here, also attacking the d5 pawn. After the exchange of pieces here, knight c3, bishop f5, clearly black is better. There's pressure on c2, black has the bishop pair, the d5 pawn is overextended, and this position is not good. Oops, sorry about that. And the reason that I used to like to play this is after knight e5, which looks the most logical. You attack the bishop and you also defend the pawn. But the idea is obviously not to play queen takes d4. The idea is to play bishop e3. Now, if they play a move like c5, then after f4, this just wins a piece. Like, they try to trap our bishop, but they get hit with the tempo here. So that's not good. h6 is the best move, and here we will counterstrike with f4. And after h6, g5, f takes e5, knight takes e4. We need to prevent this d5 move by black, and so bishop d5 here. And here bishop e4 is quite possible, but it leads to c3. After bc3, dc3, I think there's a bishop takes f7 move is possible, but bc3, knight c3, and bishop f7 here is also very good. We can even castle into it, and after king e8, knight c3, bishop c3, and queen b3 here wins back the material, and also black's king is just so exposed. g5 is weak. everything is loose in black's position. But so instead of that, knight c5 is the best move. But here we will castle, and there's a lot of pressure on f7, as you can see. But luckily for black, they have this move knight e6, after which queen f3, and after queen e7, here knight e3 or knight d2 are possible, but knight d2 is better. And a lot of people here will forget that c6 that just actually loses, because after knight c4, they forget that d6 is actually a major weakness now in black's position. And after it takes knight here, king d8, we will just be winning a full rook, and there's also the threat of knight g6, winning another piece. So c6 is kind of what this whole idea, or this whole gambit, is based around. Like, a lot of people play c6 carelessly and forget that the knight comes in really fast, like into black's position, which is why there's actually a refutation here. The refutation is a surprising g4, which is why a lot of people will not see this coming. Because after queen takes g4, the idea is that now the pressure on f7 is alleviated, and black can actually force the exchange of queens with queen h4. And after takes, white will get a tempo with knight f3, rook h5, and then g4 is a nice way to kick it back. This was played before once. After rook h8, bishop g5 here. You know, if you take on g5, then there's going to be too much pressure on f7. So after c5, a4, preventing any, you know, just getting space here, possibly. You know, it's hard to believe that white's better. And I mean, white probably isn't better here. Black is up a pawn, and all they need to do is just consolidate, and they should be just up a clean pawn. White doesn't have any like immediate threats anyways, so I have a hard time believing in this position. Yeah, so this is kind of the reason that I stopped playing this. But from time to time, when I faced you know, low-rated opponents, I'm like, I know that they're not going to know this for sure, and even a lot of high-rated guys don't know this. It's a very obscure gambit, but still, it's very fun to play. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and if you have any requests for any future videos, please comment those below, and I'll see you guys next time. So stay safe and have fun playing chess. Bye bye.